All right, I have a theme today with working with clients that I wanted to make a video on. So sorry if my clients are listening to this again, but hopefully, hopefully nobody can relate to this, but I'm guessing if you're watching this channel that you can relate to this, and hopefully this will help. So another thing that's very common that we struggle with when we have an eating disorder is feeling like we have to match each day and make it exactly the same or less. So each day needs to either have less food in it or more movement. And then the next day you need to match that and match that, match that. And then you get to a place where like you feel content until, I don't know, something comes up and then you have this new level of needing to match less food and more movement. And you sit there for a while and then you have this new thing that comes up and less food, more movement. You see how this is a very dangerous cycle. And it's it is absolutely impossible to recover and do this. So clients today that I've talked to have expressed that, I had kind of a safer breakfast this morning or yesterday morning, and now it feels really hard to like challenge myself. Like I just want to keep going back to that same breakfast. Or I moved a little bit after lunch yesterday and I wasn't supposed to. I went and did a stretching routine, and now I really feel like I want to do that. Even if they had several days prior to that they weren't doing it, just that little letting themselves do it makes it so much harder for them to get back on track, because in their head, it feels like they have to match what they did the day prior. I completely can understand this because I did this for 20 years. Absolutely, totally understand. I would like be on a good track and I'd be challenging things. And then for whatever reason, whether it was intentional or not, maybe like an emergency came up and I had to eat lunch later or something. I don't know. Maybe my kids were sick and they were home from school and I, got breakfast late or something. Then what would happen was the next day, suddenly I couldn't eat breakfast until, let's say 9:30 when I ate it yesterday, even if I was eating at 7. All the mornings before, just because of that one little glitch, I suddenly felt like it was very hard now to go back to eating breakfast at 7. Same thing with lunch. Let's say your lunch gets pushed back. Let's say you can't get lunch until 3 for whatever reason. Again, out of your control, which I'd like to say not too many reasons why that would be. There's food everywhere, whether you're out and about or whatever. Carrying food with you is an important strategy when you're in recovery. But let's just say there wasn't food available and you got lunch a little bit late. Then the next day, right? Suddenly lunch at 12 sounds completely crazy to you. It sounds impossible to do. Why would you ever eat lunch at 12? That's the worst idea. I can't eat lunch at 12. Yesterday I ate it at 3 and it was so much better because then I pushed back all my food and then dinner came faster and then I didn't have to eat as much and I missed my snack and blah, blah. And your brain explodes with eating disorder crap, right? So the strategy to beat this is, obviously you're going to do your best every day to try to truly like eat unconditionally, right? With full permission to eat whatever you want. But if days come up where it's like, oh my gosh, I see that I slipped a little bit here or there, just know ahead of time, tomorrow probably going to be challenging. What can I set in place to ensure that I get back on track immediately and this doesn't turn into more than just one day? What are some things that I can make sure I'm committed to doing to ensure that happens? So if that means breakfast at 7, right? Back to your breakfast at 7 because you had one morning where you ate it later. Maybe that means that you're going to email your coach and tell them, hey, this is what happened. I'm eating breakfast at 7 a.m. Maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a partner, maybe it's your spouse. I don't know. Somebody you're going to reach out to and be like, hey, make sure I get that in. So you have some accountability on the other end, right? Setting it out, set your breakfast out, already commit to what you're going to eat. I don't recommend like planning your day out, but if it means to get back on track that you need to have a really challenging feeling breakfast, do that. I talked about in other videos, I had the candy bar in bed. Put your candy bar next to your alarm clock. When that goes off, you're eating immediately. So there, you already did it. You didn't have to decide if you're going to eat, at 7 or later or what. Your alarm went off at 6:45 and bam, you put food in your mouth. So it has to be something to kind of like shock you back into active recovery so that you don't spend days and days dwelling in this kind of crappy place where you fell back into old behaviors. Because what happens then, right? Lunch gets pushed back, breakfast gets pushed back, lunch gets pushed back, dinner gets pushed back, you're eating in the kitchen till 2 a.m., you're exhausted, you're losing sleep, you're waking up now at 10. Now the new normal is breakfast at 10. Do you see in this video how slippery of a slope this is and why it's so important to get that out of your head that you have to match each day? So in my recovery, what I did was I actually made it intentionally tried to top each day. So like if this day was really, really challenging and hard, tomorrow I'm going to add something to it to make it even more hard. So if that means I had a big breakfast one day and the next day I'm going to add, you know, more peanut butter, even more peanut butter to my toast or whatever. And then the next day I'm going to do that, and I'm going to eat breakfast or lunch at 11:50 instead of 12. Like I was always trying to challenge myself in new ways. So I felt like I was always moving in a good, positive direction. And knowing that that's your pattern, try your very best when you're tempted in that moment to be like, I'm just going to eat the safer food today. Just today, I just want to have like the safer lunch. I just want to have a little bit less. I want you to compute in your head what that's going to do to your brain and how much harder that's going to make. In that moment, yes, you get a quick fix of this relief of I got something, I did something easier, and it felt like a warm, cozy blanket around me because I, made the safer choice. But what does that mean if you're truly trying to recover? What is that going to do for you now? How much effort do you have to put into trying to reverse that and get back into challenging lunches or challenging meals? So this is just something that I've seen happen, a lot, but especially today, it just seems like for whatever reason, clients are struggling with that. So hopefully, if this is you and you're listening and you're like, oh my gosh, yes, totally, take some of this advice. I've been through it before. I do have seen clients that are very proactive about, one, making sure they're doing everything they can to make your day really, really good so the next day can, carry through with momentum and in a positive direction. That when you do that and you think through your decisions before, you kind of try to remove yourself emotionally, detach yourself from the eating disorder thoughts. It's another thing that I talk a lot about with my clients is like, you can feel guilt and anxiety and all these things. That's just like an emotion. If you step outside of your eating disorder and pull the emotions away, and here's your eating disorder and here are these feelings, then you can objectively look at what's going on and be like, oh, I see the eating disorder is telling me to do all this crap. I'm feeling all these things for that reason, but I know logically, if I look at the big picture, logically, if I can talk myself through why I need to eat unrestrictedly and why I need to tackle this right now, then I can understand the anxiety and guilt still going to be there, but I don't have to think it's like all me. I don't have control of that. You can feel all those things, but it doesn't mean that you can't still eat. You can eat through those emotions. So trying to detach and not get too wrapped up in what's going on in your head and thinking it's you and your malfunction and you're never going to be normal and your brain's crazy, so what's the point? And this downward spiral of thinking, it's going to feel really overwhelming. It's going to exacerbate your anxiety. So detach from the emotions. When you're in that moment of making the decision, should I eat this, should I not? I don't know, I'm scared. Okay, I understand I'm scared, it's just a feeling. I can do it anyways. I'm going to eat even though I'm scared, and then I know I'm setting myself up for tomorrow to make it a little bit easier. So hope this helped. Bye.